This is Justin Trudeau's third campaign as Liberal leader and second as Prime Minister. And with a minority government lasting almost 2 years, he's been building the case that an election is needed now to end efforts by the opposition parties to block his agenda.
We have seen a level of obstructionism and toxicity in the House that is of real concern.
For the Prime Minister, the objective is a return to a majority government. The Liberals upended Canadian politics in 2015 by becoming the first third-place party in Canadian history to win a majority government. But that majority was reduced to a minority in the 2019 vote. In fact, the Liberals lost the popular vote to the Conservatives and Andrew Scheer. For this campaign, the Liberal narrative will play up the government's response to the pandemic and what comes next. The hundreds of billions of dollars spent to keep Canadians safe and prevent economic ruin, and the tens of billions more that will be spent to rebuild a stronger, more equitable and greener economy on the other side.
We have been, over the past many months, not just announcing a path through this COVID-19 pandemic, but demonstrating our commitment to building back better in a stronger economy. 8 out of every $10 in support to Canadians through this pandemic came from the federal government. We've had people's backs and we will continue.
But with the pandemic easing, Canadian voters are also becoming more focused on the need to deal with longer-term issues. The failings of the healthcare system, the treatment of Canada's Indigenous peoples, housing costs and climate change. The Liberals held 155 seats at dissolution. They need 170 seats to form a majority government. And they hope to find more than half of those additional seats by ousting BLOC MPs in the province of Quebec. That explains why the Prime Minister supports the Quebec Premier's proposal to unilaterally change the Constitution to protect the French language, and why the government pushed so hard to pass Bill C-10 in the House of Commons to regulate streaming and social media giants. Quebecers see that as a move to protect their culture. The Liberals are also targeting a half dozen seats in Ontario, 5 more in Atlantic Canada and the Prairies, a half dozen more in tight three-way races in British Columbia, and as many as 4 seats in the Conservative stronghold of Alberta, where the unpopularity of Premier Jason Kenney may sow the seeds for improved Liberal fortunes. The key to a Liberal majority is convincing progressive voters in those key ridings across the country that the time is right to unite behind one party.
There isn't a choice between the Liberals, the NDP, the Green and the BLOC Québécois. They're all the same.
The Conservatives represent the main opposition for the Liberals. It's the first campaign as party leader for Erin O'Toole. For O'Toole, the objective is winning government, no doubt. But the Liberals hold commanding leads in Canada's largest urban areas, where most of the seats are located and where Conservatives need to pick up support if they hope to form government. But the bottom line is trying to at least hold the Liberals to a minority again and hold the seats the Conservatives already have. The Conservative election narrative will be a shopping list of alleged Liberal failures, a mismanaged pandemic response, mismanaged public finances, and a ballooning deficit and debt. And personal attacks on Justin Trudeau as well over ethical breaches such as the We Charity controversy and the handling of misconduct allegations against senior military leaders. But the Conservative leader must convince more voters that change is needed and that he is that change. Erin O'Toole is promising a 5-part recovery plan that includes creating 1 million jobs in year 1, creating a domestic vaccine capacity, tougher ethics rules, a mental health action plan, and a balanced budget in 10 years.
Let's ensure that we have a government that serves the people as opposed to serving the friends of Justin Trudeau.
It's a much more difficult path to victory for Erin O'Toole and the Conservatives. The party's been smashing fundraising records, but
do you know who this is? Probably not.
Erin O'Toole enters the campaign with a low likability number in the polls, and he isn't well known outside Conservative circles. The Conservatives would have to add another 50-plus seats across the country to form a majority government. But winning more seats means winning over more voters. And polling shows that Conservatives are the second choice of only 11% of Canadians, less than any other party. So where does the Conservative Party hope to win those additional seats? For starters, it would have to scoop up more ridings in seat-rich Ontario, chiefly in the Greater Toronto Area, and in the province of Quebec as well. The polling suggests that's a tall order. Erin O'Toole's leadership has also caused some internal rifts. Many social conservatives, some whose votes helped O'Toole win the party leadership, now feel alienated by his efforts to draw more voters from the centre, and by his push to expel Ontario MP and social conservative standard-bearer Derek Sloan from caucus. O'Toole has also angered many conservatives, including some caucus members, by suddenly embracing the need to price carbon.
3 strikes and you're out, Mr. O'Toole.
That hit hard with the party's western base and even drove some party members to the upstart Maverick Party, raising the prospect of vote splitting on the right. But Erin O'Toole is hoping some lost votes in the West will be more than offset by policies that could deliver big gains in Ontario and Quebec.
Quebec is a separate nation. Quebec will never ask permission to nobody to be a separate nation.
This is the second election campaign for BLOC Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet. The BLOC holds the balance of power in the minority parliament along with the NDP. The BLOC holds 32 seats in the House of Commons. Blanchet's mission? Save them all. His narrative will be a familiar BLOC refrain, that only the BLOC will defend the interests of Quebec. The party always does better if the voters in the province feel a threat from the central government in Ottawa or feel ignored by it. But during this pandemic, the Trudeau government has responded to just about every call for help from the Quebec government, and the Liberals have muted many of the BLOC attacks by supporting Quebec's bid to unilaterally change the Constitution to protect the French language, and also by passing that bill to regulate web giants. If the BLOC cannot make the case for its relevance in the lives of Quebecers, it may well lose seats to the Liberals and maybe Conservatives too.
Where do the Conservatives stand? Is it going to be the same thing in French and in English? Where do the Liberals stand?
They've had 6 years, and we've seen what their track record is.
In Quebec, the NDP has almost nothing left to lose. A decade ago, under Jack Layton, the NDP won the majority of seats in Quebec. Since then, it has seen its seat count in successive elections reduced from 59 to just 1. And in this campaign, that single seat in Quebec is also said to be in peril. This will be the second campaign for NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. His objective is to try and build on the 24 seats the NDP won in the last election scattered across Canada. Losing seats would be a blow to Singh's leadership. The NDP leader is encouraging Canadians to opt for leadership and policies that will rebalance the economy by introducing economic and healthcare programs funded by higher taxes on wealthier Canadians, a promise to cancel student debt, and a promise to end for-profit long-term care homes. Jagmeet Singh will also be badgering the Liberals on their bold climate promises, but the failure to deliver on them. Singh consistently polls as the most popular federal leader, but his party remains mired around 20% support or less. Expect the NDP campaign to target some Liberal-held ridings, particularly in Toronto, while trying to hold off challenges from Liberals, Conservatives, and the Greens in NDP-held ridings across the country.
If you want to see universal pharmacare, if you want to see dental care, New Democrats are your only option. We are the ones that are consistently committed to improving our healthcare system. And we've seen time and time again that neither the Liberals nor the Conservatives, nor frankly the BLOC, care about improving access to these universal social programs.
We are a strong voice that is needed in the next parliament, and this is exactly the thing that they're afraid of and the thing that they have gone after in such a cynical and dastardly way.
This will be the first campaign as Green Party leader for Annamie Paul, the country's first black woman and Jewish woman to lead a national party. And she was almost pushed out of the leadership before the campaign got underway. When she took over as leader in 2020, Paul inherited a Green Party with 3 MPs. She now presides over a party in turmoil. The objective for this campaign was to take the Greens to official party status in the House of Commons by winning at least a dozen seats. But Paul's leadership's been undermined by internal attempts to oust her from the party following the defection of Jenica Atwin last June. Elected for the party in Fredericton, its first seat in Atlantic Canada, Atwin quit the Greens to go red. She says she joined the Liberals after public infighting among Greens over the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Paul accused the Prime Minister of deliberately working to destabilize her leadership in hopes of converting Green supporters to Liberal voters in tight races where the progressive vote splits resulted in Liberal losses.
The Prime Minister is not a feminist. He is not an ally. To undermine my leadership at this early stage in such a willful, craven way, that is not the kind of politics that people in Canada should want to see. They should want to see me in Parliament meeting him on the battlefield of ideas, not the shady backroom deals.
Paul survived internal efforts to push her out as party leader, but she enters the campaign as the wounded leader of a divided party. This election was called by a Prime Minister looking for a more robust hold on power. He's putting his minority government on the line by betting Canadians will give him a majority in Parliament this time and carte blanche for the next 4 years. The voters will soon tell us whether the Prime Minister's gamble paid off.